Hello and welcome back to Who Are You?, where you are creating the blueprint for your dream life by stepping into the most authentic version of you. Last but not least, in part 5, we are talking about probably the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to achieving your goals, and that's not taking action. Much too often, people set goals and they feel like they'll do it whenever they're ready, when they have enough money, when they feel more confident, when they've lost weight, when whatever, insert your reason there. But we're not guaranteed when. We are guaranteed right now, the present, the moment that we're living in. So let's see how we can take action. If you are watching this right now, I'm hoping that you have already worked through parts 1 through 4. If you haven't, please go back and do that and make sure that you grab the free workbook that goes along with this training. I will have all that linked below. But in case you don't know me by now, my name is Ria Davis, and I am a holistic goal setting and happiness coach and the creator of this training. So throughout the videos that you've watched so far, you have figured out and gotten clear on what your dreams really are. You've honestly evaluated where you're at, cleared the way, figured out what you need to let go of, and figured out a tool to measure your progress. You can be an amazing goal setter. You could have done all of that, identified all of that, analyzed the starting point, cleared the way, set up measuring tools for success, but none of that will actually matter if you don't take action. So when you don't take action on your goals, it really feels crappy. You feel like you don't have any control. You feel like your fate is just left to external circumstances. You never really achieve anything, and it just keeps getting worse, which leads to low self-worth and confidence, and it's not a good feeling. And we all know people like this, even in subtle ways, like backseat drivers. I don't know about you, but it drives me crazy when I am trying to drive and someone is telling me how to do it better because they're not driving. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you're trying to drive the car and someone keeps telling you what to do from the passenger seat? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overly passionate about this. But they're sitting there trying to tell you how fast to go, how slow to go, where to stop, how to brake. But in reality, they have absolutely no control over the situation. And that's exactly what happens when you become the backseat driver to your own life. When you don't take action, you're basically just setting yourself up for not success, for negative self-talk later. And again, that crappy feeling that I just talked about. You'll backseat drive your way right out of meeting your goals. You're unwilling to take the risk of actually doing the driving yourself. And there's usually a deeper reason for that. I don't know if you can guess it. Maybe you can, but it's fear. The good news, though, is that fear is completely made up. Think about it. Are you scared of something that's currently happening to you, or is it something that you think is going to happen? Most of the time, fear comes from a possible outcome, which means it hasn't yet happened. It comes from thinking of possibilities that you don't want to happen. And that also means that you have everything you need not to be fearful because you're in control. You're in control of what you focus on. You're in control of your current circumstances. And when you have clarity, like we've talked about so much already, you don't have to be fearful. Think about the road trip example I gave in part 4. If I'm unclear on my starting point, the destination, or the landmarks along the way, I'm going to be pretty fearful about making it there. There's nothing to reassure me. There's nothing that clearly shows the way. It's just a big cloud of uncertainty. And that, my friend, is fear. So you can eliminate fear by making sure that you have that clarity and that understanding of who you are, where you're at, where you're going, and how to get there. So the clarity from parts 1 through 4 is super important if you want to be able to take action on your goals. I want to go back to an example that I've given a few times throughout these videos, and that's building a house. If you want to build a house, think about what your action steps are. Is building a house in and of itself an action step? It's not. That's a huge project. It's a process. It has all these embedded steps in that whole process. And when I create action steps, I like to use a variation of something called the Pomodoro method. I'll put out a podcast about this soon, probably in the next few weeks. But essentially, my action steps should take no longer than 2 hours to complete. So the Pomodoro method is working in 25-minute increments, which is my ideal action step window. I would like for my action steps to be less than 25 minutes, but sometimes it is a very small action step that's just going to take a long time. So maybe it's outlining a podcast. Well, I can chunk that down into maybe like headings and subheadings and things, but for something like that, I like to get it all done at once. I do like to break it down into steps as far as, doing the research and then doing the outline, but sometimes it's going to take more than 25 minutes on a single small task. So I like to use that just as a frame of reference, and I'll talk more about like time management and productivity tips and stuff like that in another episode, in another podcast episode. But basically, I just wanted to use that to say it needs to be very, very small. It's not the act of building a house. It's breaking it down into teeny tiny, often overlooked aspects of action. So with the example of building a house, you might start looking at different models or options, doing your research. So no one just out of the blue on a Tuesday says, I'm going to build a house and suddenly just starts building. They have to know what kind of house they're building, where they want to build it. They have to know how much it's going to cost. Do they have the budget for it? What are the payments going to be? Does it need, a well, a septic tank? All of these, and there's so many things that go into it. So even though that sounds like really micro and really just almost too specific, with action steps, that's how specific you want to break it down, because it makes it so much easier for you to take action when it's just a simple step versus this like monumental activity. So some examples for building a house: doing your research. What style house would you like? Again, it's important to be specific. So with this example, you might start by Googling house designs. And I'm sure that you guys can think of an example of where you've done this, where you're looking for something specific, but you don't know what it is until you just start Googling. So if I Google house designs, I'm going to see a ton of stuff come up, and then I'm going to see ones that I like. And then I'm going to find out, okay, well, that's, a colonial style house or whatever. And then from there, I can put in colonial style house designs, and I can get more specific, and, it narrows down and it gets really, really targeted until you find the house design. But again, that's just one small little piece. So you might start looking at where you want to build. You might start pricing the construction or looking for a builder. You can see how these are all incredibly small, actionable, specific steps that you could take today. You could take in one day, in an hour, in 25 minutes, whatever. So looking at your workbook, take some time to reflect on everything that you did in parts 1 through 4. You really did some deep work, and it's important to take a second to recognize that. I'm so proud of you for getting clear on who you are and what you want. And I want you to remember that's something that most people haven't taken action on yet. Now it's time for you to step into your dreams by taking action today and identifying the action steps that you could take. For every goal that you want to achieve, list out 2 to 3 steps that you could take today to be closer to that goal. These steps should not be giant steps like design a website or become a geologist. These should be super small and actionable today or in the near future. If your dream is to be a geologist, maybe your small actionable step could be researching the geology field or programs. Maybe it could be signing up for a geology seminar. Those are just some examples. This is really key here. And I want to leave you with this quote because I think it's so important and so relevant to everything that we've talked about throughout this 5-part training series. So Simon Sinek said, authenticity is when you say and do the things you actually believe. And I want to come back to the title of this training. Who are you? You were able to create a blueprint for your dream life by figuring out who you are, what authenticity means for you. And that's identifying those values. It's identifying what you believe. It's identifying what you need to be in alignment with. People talk about alignment and being aligned with your truest self and all these things, but you can't do that until you know who that is. When you're in alignment with who you are, who you truly are, you awaken an unstoppable force within you. The entire universe aligns with you and your dreams come true. I want to thank you again for watching, listening, participating in this 5-part video series. Please follow along on social, and if you haven't already, download that workbook and make your dreams come true. It's been wonderful being here with you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.